ici. Et tous les trois ensemble. Voilà, voilà, tout, comme ça, avec les têtes posées, comme ça. Super. Voilà, regardez.
Well, let's say the circumstances were particular ones because I wrote it at the end of the first lockdown. And I didn't write it like a script or like a screenplay because I wasn't sure at the beginning that it would be a film. I started writing, it was more like sketches that I was taking during this period of the lockdown. And I tried to be as realistic as possible in my writings. Well, how can I put it? I wanted to write down the emotions that I had during this period of time because I lived in this house. And I was a child back then in the house. I was surprised by the way when I came back to this house. And gradually I wrote down the scenes which represented what I experienced back in my childhood. It was about the relationship with my brother as well. And rather soon I started doing a film. It was more autobiographical than any other film I had done. It was taking shape gradually, and I had to get used to the idea to shoot this film because I was a bit intimidated by the idea. It wasn't only a fiction and it wasn't 100% reality what you could see in the film, but I think when writing the script, it was also a very particular situation. When we were doing the film with Olivier, we were surrounded by the objects which were touched or had been touched by the real people at the time. So these were the circumstances, and I think one had to try and try to show this kind of dance between the objects which had already existed, and they had this power stronger than us, and we had to try and find our space in this environment of objects. So a very delicate situation. Well, I think that the film is very beautiful because, as a matter of fact, it is very intimate. At the same time, there's a lot of derision, a sense of humor for oneself shown by Olivier. There's a certain type of distance to the reality, though. And as a matter of fact, I got inspiration from Olivier, of course. And Olivier is the director directing me, of course, but it is also about one's imagination. And I always have the impression that I can put some derision or some fantasy, some imagination into the character. But as a matter of fact, this is a film about a certain period of time, which is the lockdown. But I think this film is still universal because it really addresses dreams, the dreams about cinema, maybe. And it is also about confinement, being housebound together with other people, being confined there.
I think when you deal with something that everybody has shared all over the world, like a historical moment, you know, like something, you know, I mean, it's in my generation, it's the one moment when I've saw history in the making. It's something that had never happened before. We were not prepared for it, and the only way you can deal with it is show it exactly as you've seen it, as you've experienced it, not as other people experienced it. You can't make something that would make sense the same way in every single culture, because in every different country the pandemic has a different story and brings with it different issues, various issues. So I tried to be as close as I could to my own experience, and it's all there on the screen. I mean, everything is kind of exaggerated because it's a comedy and you have to underline things and to make it just lively and funny. But ultimately, it's all true. I mean, this is the way, this is my experience, and I'm kind of bringing it to you. I mean, to be honest, I thought there would be a flood of movies about pandemics, about the pandemic. I thought there would be one of the reasons I was not. I wrote this 3 years ago, and the reason why I was not making the film is because I thought that so many movies would pop up, but after a while I realized that no movie was popping up, and nothing was. So I thought, oh, okay, so maybe I can try mine.